You ran out of my courtroom, the judge said quietly, as if justice were something you could outrun. The bailiff stood beside her. The courtroom doors had been locked. She stood there again, now wrists trembling, eyes wide. I panicked, she whispered. You ran during a restraining order court hearing, the judge replied evenly. That is not panic. That is defiance. Across the room, her estranged husband sat rigid, his attorney leaning close. A retired Supreme Court justice presiding over a domestic case was rare, but today was not a normal hearing. This was the latest divorce case judgment intertwined with allegations of assault, financial manipulation, and a demand for compensation to victims of crime. And she had just tried to flee. If you believe actions inside a courtroom have consequences, subscribe now, because what happens next will show you the real difference between law and justice. The judge leaned forward. You thought running was a good idea, he said. Let me explain why it ended badly. The silence was suffocating. The judge adjusted the file in front of him. Bring her back to the stand. She swallowed hard. And this time, there was nowhere left to go. She walked slowly toward the witness stand again, every step echoing against polished marble. The retired Supreme Court Justice, Justice Harold Whitcomb, watched her without visible anger. That was worse. Because he wasn't emotional. He was surgical. State your name for the record, he said calmly. Danielle Mercer. Her voice shook. Justice Whitcomb nodded. You understand that fleeing the courtroom during a restraining order hearing may result in contempt charges? Yes. And you understand this hearing concerns allegations that you violated a temporary protection order issued against you. Her head snapped up against me. He's the one who filed it to control me. A murmur passed through the courtroom gallery. The judge raised a hand. You will answer questions directly. Across the aisle, her husband, Marcus Mercer, stared forward stiffly. His attorney stood. Your Honor, my client seeks enforcement of the restraining order issued after Ms. Mercer allegedly struck him during a custody exchange. Danielle's attorney objected immediately, leadedly, and context matters. Justice Whitcomb leaned back slightly. Context always matters. That is the difference between law and justice. He turned back to Danielle. You ran why? She hesitated, because no one believes me. The judge's expression did not change. Belief is not decided by volume, he said. It is decided by evidence. Marcus's lawyer stood again. Your Honor, this is not the first incident. There are 3 documented police calls. Danielle turned toward him sharply, and 3 times he lied. The judge's gavel struck. Once. Order. He opened a thin binder. Mr. Mercer alleges that on April 12th you struck him in the driveway of your shared residence. Danielle's hands tightened. He blocked my car. He alleges you damaged his phone. He was recording me. Justice Whitcomb's eyes lifted slowly. Recording during a custody exchange is not illegal. Harassing me is. Marcus's attorney cleared his throat. My client feared for his safety. Danielle let out a sharp laugh. He's 6'2". The judge's voice hardened. This is not about height. Silence returned. Justice Whitcomb flipped a page. There's also a pending divorce petition, he said. Latest divorce case judgment is still under advisement. Marcus's lawyer nodded. Double quotes, yes, Your Honor. Property division and custody are unresolved. And yet, the judge said, a restraining order shifts leverage. The room grew. Still. Danielle's attorney seized the moment. Your Honor, this protection order has been used to limit her access to her children. Marcus's lawyer objected. It was issued for safety. Justice Whitcomb steepled his fingers. Safety must be proven, not weaponized. He looked directly at Marcus now. Mr. Mercer, stand. Marcus rose stiffly. You claim fear? Yet text records show you continued contacting Ms. Mercer after the order. Marcus hesitated. That was about the kids. The judge's eyebrow lifted slightly. At midnight, Marcus's lawyer stepped in quickly. Your Honor, communication about children can be urgent. Justice Whitcomb's gaze sharpened. At midnight. The courtroom felt tighter now. Danielle's breathing slowed slightly. She sensed the shift. Marcus cleared his throat. I needed to confirm pickup. The judge looked down at the printed message. It says, we need to talk alone? Silence. Danielle's attorney rose. Your Honor, we intend to introduce evidence that the restraining order was sought after Ms. Mercer filed for equitable division of marital assets. Marcuse's attorney stiffened. Speculation. Is it? The judge asked quietly. He turned another page. Bank transfers totaling $240,000 were moved into a separate account 2 weeks before the order. Marcus's face paled slightly. That was business restructuring. Danielle spoke softly. He does that whenever I question him. Justice Whitcomb nodded once. Financial control is relevant in domestic hearings. He turned to the clerk. Mark those transfers. Marcus's lawyer attempted recovery. Your Honor, this hearing concerns physical altercation, not constitutional theory. The judge's eyes lifted. All hearings concern principles. Justiciability, constitutional law requires this court to assess whether the dispute is properly before it. He paused, and whether the order is being used strategically. The courtroom was silent again. Danielle looked at the judge carefully now. He wasn't against her. It wasn't against Marcus. He was dismantling the narrative. Marcus's lawyer shifted approach. Your Honor, there is documented contact. Witness statements. Danielle's attorney stood. We called Dr. Elaine Porter. A woman in her 40s approached the stand. State your profession. Forensic behavioral analyst. Marcus's attorney narrowed his eyes. And what is your relevance? I reviewed interaction footage from the driveway incident. The judge leaned forward. Proceed. Dr. Porter continued. The video shows Mr. Mercer stepping into Ms. Mercer's path while holding his phone close to her face. Marcus shifted in his seat. She reacts defensively. Marcus's lawyer objected. Subjective interpretation. Dr. Porter remained calm. I apply behavioral analysis techniques referenced by criminologists. Craig Kennedy in domestic escalation cases. The judge nodded slightly. Continue. The physical movement was reactive, not aggressive. Marcus's attorney stood quickly. Dr. Porter, are you saying my client staged the incident? I am saying proximity and posture suggest provocation. The courtroom absorbed that. Justice Whitcomb looked at Marcus again. You sought the restraining order the following morning. Is and simultaneously filed for temporary custody modification. Marcus swallowed. Yes. Danielle's attorney stepped forward. Your Honor, this reflects pattern control, similar to dynamics discussed under the Racial Justice Act, California framework, where structural imbalance affects outcomes. Marcos's attorney objected sharply. This is not a racial case. Justice Whitcomb raised his hand. Counsel is referencing power imbalance doctrine. Objection overruled. The judge's gaze moved slowly between them. Ms. Mercer, he said quietly, why did you run? She hesitated. Then the words came out. Because I thought you'd believe him. The courtroom was silent. Justice Whitcomb did not respond. Immediately, he looked at Marcus. Double quotes, Mr. Mercer. Did you ever tell your wife that no judge would side with her? Marcus's face tightened. No. Danielle spoke quietly. He said, how could the judge not believe me? The phrase hung in the air. Justice Whitcomb exhaled slowly. That sentence had shifted the weight. Because now it wasn't about running. It was about why she thought running was the only option. The judge leaned back. This court is guided by 3 principles of justice, he said evenly. Fairness, accountability, proportionality. He looked at Danielle. Running violates accountability. Then at Marcus. Manipulating process violates fairness. The room was silent. Justice Whitcomb closed the file. This matter is not concluded. He looked at the bailiff. Ms. Mercer will not be charged with contempt at this time. Marcus's lawyer stiffened. The judge continued. However, the restraining order will be temporarily suspended pending full evidentiary review. Shock rippled across the room. Danielle blinked. Marcus's face drained of color. Justice Whitcomb's voice was calm. This court will determine whether this was protection or leverage. He paused. And if leverage is proven, compensation to victims of crime may extend beyond physical harm. The courtroom froze. The judge looked at both of them. You thought running was a good idea, he repeated quietly. Then he added, it ended badly for the wrong reasons. The gavel struck once. Your Honor, the defense attorney said carefully. Before the court rules on the restraining order court hearing petition, we have newly submitted forensic evidence. A ripple passed through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. Approached Melissa Carter, the woman who thought running was a good idea, stood rigid at the defense table. Her earlier confidence was gone. Her attorney whispered something urgently in her ear. The prosecutor didn't look surprised. Counsel, the judge, said, what exactly are you presenting? A data extraction report from Ms. Carter's phone. Time-stamped, authenticated. The prosecutor's voice sharpened. We object to any delay tactics. The judge raised his hand. Overruled for now. I will review it. The courtroom clerk handed the printed report up to the bench. Silence. The judge flipped pages slowly. Page after page, his eyebrows narrowed. Then he stopped. Double quotes, Ms. Carter, he said quietly. You testified that on the night in question you left because you feared for your safety. Yes, Your Honor, she replied. You claimed you were fleeing an escalating domestic situation. Yes, the judge lifted the report. This extraction shows that at 8:47 p.m., 3 minutes before you called 911, you texted someone named Evan the following. I'll say he threatened me. That should trigger immediate arrest. A gasp exploded through the gallery. Melissa's face drained of color. The defense attorney jumped up. Your Honor, context matters. The judge's tone turned cold. Does context alter the language of that message? The prosecutor stepped forward. It also shows that at 8:49 p.m. Say searched how to get emergency restraining order fast. The judge removed his glasses slowly. This court takes false allegations seriously, particularly when they weaponize legal protections designed for actual victims. Melissa's voice shook. It's not what it looks like. The prosecutor didn't wait. Your Honor, this case now raises issues of fraudulent testimony and potential obstruction. The courtroom tension thickened. If you're watching this unfold and you care about the difference between law and justice, subscribe now. These cases expose how fragile the line can be. The judge turned to the defendant. Daniel Ruiz, the man she accused, you have remained silent through this proceeding? Do you wish to speak? Daniel swallowed. Your Honor, I never threatened her. I begged her to stay. She wanted to move out without breaking the lease. The prosecutor nodded. We have lease documents filed. Breaking the lease would have resulted in financial penalties. The judge looked back at Melissa, said this restraining order court hearing was a strategy to terminate housing obligations. No, she cried. The judge's voice hardened. You also testified that you feared for your life. Yet surveillance footage from the building lobby shows you laughing while waiting for officers. The defense attorney looked stunned. Surveillance? Yes, the prosecutor said smoothly. Submitted this morning. The courtroom murmured again. The judge folded his hands. Ms. Carter, did you fabricate elements of your testimony? Her breathing became shallow. No. The judge leaned forward. Because if you did, this moves from a civil protection issue into criminal territory, filing a false police report. Perjury. Silence. Then the twist no one expected. The courtroom doors opened. A man entered, older, composed, wearing a dark suit. The clerk whispered urgently to the judge. The judge's expression shifted. Court will take judicial notice that former Supreme Court retired Judge Harold Bennett has entered as an observer. The room erupted in whispers. A retired Supreme Court judge? Why was he here? The prosecutor smiled faintly. Your Honor, Mr. Bennett now consults on matters related to compensation to victims of crime and misuse of restraining order statutes. Melissa stared in disbelief. The judge addressed the gallery. This case raises broader questions about justiciability and constitutional law, whether courts are being used properly or manipulated. The defense attorney objected again, but the momentum had shifted. The prosecutor continued. Furthermore, Your Honor, Ms. Carter posted online 2 weeks ago, quoting a podcast by Craig Kennedy, criminologist, stating that false allegations are statistically rare and courts should believe first. Question later. The judge raised an eyebrow. Belief does not replace evidence. The prosecutor nodded. And the Racial Justice Act, California provisions, have been cited improperly in her supplemental filing, claiming bias without proof. The judge turned to Melissa. You invoked the Racial Justice Act, California in your motion. On what grounds? She hesitated. I felt the officers treated me differently. Differently how? She had no answer. The courtroom air tightened. Daniel's attorney spoke carefully. Your Honor, my client has lost his job due to the arrest. He was removed from his home. His reputation has been damaged. The prosecutor added. Under compensation to victims of crime statutes, wrongful accusation victims may petition for restitution. Melissa's head snapped up. Victim. He's the victim. The judge's voice boomed across the chamber. This court is not a theater. It is not social media. It is not a strategy room. Silence fell like a curtain. He looked at the phone report again. Miss Carter, you believed running was a good idea. Running from a lease, running from responsibility, running into this courtroom expecting sympathy. He leaned back. It ended badly, the defense attorney whispered frantically. The judge continued. I am not ruling yet. I will reassess for 30 minutes to review all exhibits. The gavel struck, and as everyone rose, the prosecutor leaned toward Daniel and whispered something that changed everything. When court resumed, another exhibit would surface. One that Melissa never imagined existed, and it would redefine who truly ran and why. Court reconvened. The judge entered with a different expression, resolved. Be seated. The prosecutor stood immediately. Your Honor, before ruling, we submit Exhibit 22. What is Exhibit 22? Audio. Melissa's body stiffened. The defense attorney objected reflexively. Foundation? Authenticated by digital forensics. The judge allowed it. The courtroom audio system crackled. Then Melissa's voice filled the room. Claire.com. Calculated. Double quotes. If you won't agree to let me out of the lease, I'll make sure he regrets it. A restraining order will ruin him. The room froze. The defense attorney closed his eye. Daniel stared at the floor. The judge let the silence linger. Then he spoke. Miss Carter, this is your voice. She didn't respond. Answer the court.
Yes.
A collective exhale swept the gallery. The judge's tone shifted from controlled to firm. You misused a protective legal instrument. You made statements under oath that are contradicted by evidence. You caused arrest, employment, termination, and reputational harm. He paused. The difference between law and justice is intention. Law is procedure. Justice is truth. Melissa began to cry. Your Honor, I panicked. I didn't think it would go this far. The judge replied. False allegations always go this far. The prosecutor stood. We request dismissal of the restraining order petition with prejudice. Referral for perjury, review, and consideration of restitution under compensation of victims of crime provisions. The defense attorney whispered urgently. We request leniency. The judge looked at Daniel. Do you wish to make a statement? Daniel stood slowly. I don't want revenge. I just want my life back. The judge nodded. Then the final twist. Former Supreme Court retired Judge Bennett stood from the gallery. With permission, Your Honor. The judge hesitated, then aloud. Bennett spoke calmly. This case illustrates why justiciability, constitutional law principles matter. Courts cannot become instruments of leverage. They must remain venues of evidence. He turned toward Melissa. The three principles of justice are fairness, accountability, and proportionality. All three have been strained here. The room was silent. If you believe accountability matters, subscribe. Stories like this reveal how fragile the system can be. The sitting judge delivered his ruling. The petition for restraining order is denied with prejudice. Melissa trembled. The court refers the matter to the district attorney for review of potential perjury and false reporting. Her attorney collapsed into his chair. Additionally, this court authorizes Daniel Ruiz to petition for financial restitution. Gavel raised. Court is adjourned. The stride echoed. Melissa had run toward the system believing it would shield her narrative. Instead, the system examined it, and under scrutiny it failed. Running was a strategy. Truth was the verdict.